Hi, my name is Karen Gade Polito. I'm a physician. I specialize in physical medicine and rehabilitation. Don't worry if you don't know what that is. Most people don't. Even some other physicians don't know what that is. So I spend a lot of time explaining exactly what I do. But I will be telling you more about that later, so we'll get to that in a little bit. I wanted to give you a little bit of background, first of all. I was born in a small town. Actually, I was born in Michigan, but I spent most of my life in a small town in the mountains of North Carolina. And my parents are from Denmark, and my father worked as a geography professor in the college in the town where we lived. And my mother was mostly a stay-at-home mom. She also worked some at the university. So it was a pretty simple life. We didn't have a whole lot of money, but we were fine. We'd occasionally travel to Denmark, which is great. And my parents were very emphatic about, experiencing new things, which has always stayed with me my entire life. My childhood interests were mostly, I loved to read, and I was very fascinated by anything scientific. I just thought that was just lots of fun to explore. So things such as volcanoes. I wanted to be a volcanologist when I was in middle school. I thought that'd be really cool to do. And archaeology. So I thought maybe I'd be an archaeologist at some point. By the time I got to high school, I still wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So if any of you are in high school right now listening to this, it's okay. It takes time to figure out who you are and where you fit in the world. So initially I thought, well, I want to be a veterinarian. I love animals. I always have and I always will. And I thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. So I spent time researching all the best schools, and I worked at a veterinarian's office until finally I found that I was going through too many boxes of these every night after I got home from work because I was so allergic to animal dander. So back to the drawing board, I decided it probably wasn't a great idea to be a veterinarian, and I still didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I kept my doors and opportunities open. I think to give any little bit of advice, that's one that I give my own son and I'd give to anyone else too, is make sure you keep the doors open. There's a wealth of opportunities out there, and you'll never know what they are if you don't explore them. So I look at every opportunity as an open door, and if I choose not to go through that door, there's nothing wrong with that. But I want to keep it open in case I want to explore it sometime in the future. So open as many doors as you can, explore as many opportunities as you can, because that is where you're going to find your heart and your dream. So anyway, I kept my options open. I did well in school, kept my grades up, and I had a lot of extracurricular activities and so forth. The balance that everybody suggests that you have these days. You don't need to kill yourself doing it. Just have fun. Make sure you have fun. Do things that you enjoy. Don't do things because you have to do them, but because you want to do them. College was a given. I knew I was going to go to school. My parents didn't have a lot of money, so they encouraged me to apply for scholarships. So I applied for everything, one that I could, and I did get some good ones. So that was fortunate. So they didn't have to pay for my schooling. I pretty much took care of that myself with my scholarships, which was good. And while I was in school, when I was in college, I was still not really entirely sure what I wanted to do. So again, if you're at this stage of your life and you don't know what you want to do, that's okay. Just explore the options and the opportunities because they're out there. The best thing that you can do is find a good mentor. And there's a lot of those. And mentors are really the people who have interests in the same areas that you have and can give you guidance about how to use your interests to find something that you can find fulfilling down the road. So a mentor that I had when I was in college said, hey, you're interested in science and you're interested in neurosciences. I wanted to study the human brain, I said. They said, why don't you look into medical school? And I was like, oh, I never really thought about that. I guess I could do medical school. I'll apply for it. I was already double majoring in biology and chemistry, so I figured I could do that next step. So I did. And I applied to a couple of medical schools in the state, and I was accepted. And so that was a wonderful opportunity. And one little hitch in the ride, though, I had word from an uncle who lived in Denmark and worked at a pharmaceutical company, and he said, there's a possibility that you could come and work here in the lab for a year if you were interested. And I was like, I just got accepted to medical school. I don't know how I can do that. He says, well, why don't you ask them at the medical school if you can take a year off and do some research in our organic chemistry synthesis labs here. I bet you they would be amenable to that. And he was right. And of course they were. So I jumped at the opportunity and ran right through that door. It was fantastic. I did get a reputation for catching the lab on fire, but aside from singed eyebrows, it was a wonderful opportunity. I worked in the organic synthesis lab synthesizing derivatives of erythromycin. So it was when we got to our bigger batches that it got a little more challenging, but it was a lot of fun. I met a lot of great friends and traveled quite a bit and experienced wonderful cultures. So it was very, very much worth the time and the year that I took away. And in fact, I applied also to scholarships for medical school and was able to get that as well. So I decided in advance that if I didn't get any money for medical school, I would probably get a military scholarship and spend my time, paying back to the military after I graduated from medical school. So the fact that my parents didn't have a lot of money and couldn't afford to send me to school didn't stop me from looking at my opportunities for school. So don't ever let money stand in your way. Don't ever let anything stand in the way of your dreams. If there's something that you want to do, you'll be able to do it. Just pursue that path, keep that door open, and charge through it. So I did come back to medical school and jumped right in head first, and it was exciting, and it was inspiring and intimidating and invigorating and at times terrifying. But overall, it was absolutely amazing journey. It was an amazing exploration of the human condition and the ties that bind us together, both psychologically and physically. It was a true honor, really, to experience that journey and also to work with the thousands of patients that I have over the years since that time. There's rarely a time in your life where you're more vulnerable than when you're sick or when you're hurting. And to be able to step in and use my knowledge and my experience and my compassion to help people in their time of greatest need, and to be able to get them back on their feet again, to help them see the light again, to feel better again, to resume and increase their quality of life. That has been an incredibly humbling and fulfilling experience for me, something that I'll never regret. So choosing medicine was definitely the right path for me, and certainly could be for many of you as well. Definitely an amazing experience going through medical school. So while I was in medical school, I approached it the same way that I have many other things throughout my life. I kept opening doors and looking for opportunities, because just being in medical school still didn't tell me what I was going to do with my career. Okay, I was going to be a physician, but of what? So was I going to be a family practitioner? Was I going to be a pediatrician, an obstetrician? My friends would see me playing with the babies on the obstetrics unit, and I tell you, I have to admit, I did love that. And they said, oh, you should be an obstetrician or a pediatrician. And I did think about that, but then I thought, no, I think eyes are fascinating. I think I want to work with eyes the rest of my life, so I want to be an ophthalmologist. So I actually did a year of research in that and worked towards that. And then one of my mentors, again, keep an eye out for those mentors. They're fabulous people. He was actually a pathologist, but he said, based on your personality, I think you should look at something else. And I'm like, what? I mean, what's wrong with ophthalmology? He's like, well, that's a fine field. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think you should look at physical medicine rehabilitation. And I said, what's that? I don't know what that is. And we didn't have that in our school at the university where I was going to medical school. And he said, no, go to the Rehab Institute of Chicago. It's a world-renowned institute. Spend a month there and see what you think. And he said, I think you'll like it. And I'm like, okay, why not? I'll do it. So there was another door that opened with the guidance of a mentor, and I checked it out. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I was like, this is it. That was my eureka moment. I'm like, this is it. This is what I want to do with the rest of my life. So let me tell you why. So I went up there and I spent a month working on a rehab unit in downtown Chicago. Chicago was fantastic. That was a lot of fun. But the rehab unit was amazing. So I'd work with people who had, most of them, it was an orthopedic unit. So they had joint replacements, they'd had back injuries, and a variety of different conditions and surgeries that they needed to recover from. So I spent my time working with them and working with the therapist team and help them get back on their feet again. So as the physiatrist, the physical medicine rehab specialist there, well, the student at the time, I followed around, the other guys around, I was able to help coordinate the care plan for them. But what was most compelling to me while I was there was this gentleman who'd had traumatic brain injury, and his biggest problem was he was on the unit because he had just had a revision of a hip replacement that had been unsuccessful previously because he couldn't remember from 1 minute to the next, and he couldn't remember that there were certain things after a hip replacement you were not supposed to do, like cross your legs and bend over, and he kept dislocating the hip. So he was back in on the rehab unit, and we had to design a special brace for him to keep him from doing all these things he wasn't supposed to do. And then we worked with him in a rehabilitation setting to get him back home, because he lived at home. I think he was in a group home where he had some supervision, but for the most part, he was able to do things on his own. And that included becoming a local celebrity in Chicago, much to my surprise. So this fellow, who had no short-term memory from his brain injury, was able to tell you that he was actually once a Wall Street broker, and one of his clients was Dustin Hoffman, the movie star from some years ago. And he said, I had a dog, and I had a wife, and I had a great house, a fantastic job with amazing clients, and I lost all of it. And he says, the reason I lost all of it was because I didn't wear my bike helmet. And that's what he tells everybody. He had apparently been biking on a street. He lived in, I think, Miami or something like that at the time, and hadn't been wearing a helmet. Somebody opened a car door right in front of him. He flew over the car door and landed on his head, and things were never the same again. And he would tell you, I lost everything. I lost all of it because I wasn't wearing a helmet. And he would tell everyone this story over and over again. He told me at least 20 times while I took care of him, at least. But it was okay. It was fantastic every time I heard it. And it was inspiring to realize that here's a man who seemingly lost everything, but yet he had so much more that he could experience and that he could give back to everyone. Everybody knew him because he was always on the radio. And it was just amazing to see that. I was like, this is it. This is it. This is what I want to do. I want to work with people like this. I want to help them realize what they can do with themselves. Even if it seems like they've lost a lot, they still have so much more to give, and they still can regain that quality of life. So that, in a nutshell, is what physical medicine and rehabilitation is. I've been practicing in Ohio now for, well over 20 years, more than that. And it's been amazing and rewarding every step of the way. Much of my time is spent as medical director of inpatient rehabilitation units in our area. And in doing so, as the physiatrist or physical medicine and rehab specialist, I get to lead a team of people, of physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, caseworkers, nurses, and all of us work together to help the individuals who come onto our rehab unit get back home. That's our goal. Our goal is really to get everyone back home. And there's a wide variety of patients. They can be traumatic brain injury patients, like the one that I had in Chicago, patients with orthopedic problems that are recovering, patients who've had spine injuries, patients with spinal cord injuries where they have to learn to walk again. They can't move their arms or their legs well, so we help them with all of that. They're basic things that people lose. For example, if they have a stroke, they come to the rehab unit afterwards. They can't move one side of their body. They can't swallow. They can't eat. They can't brush their teeth. They can't go to the bathroom. These are all things that we take for granted, and they don't have that anymore. So we help them with regaining that function because they can recover from all of these things. And whether they get 100% back or not is, it doesn't really matter because they can get enough back usually to get to the point where they can get back home and either do things for themselves or they can do things with help from family members and others. So it is so rewarding and so fulfilling to be able to see people get back on their feet again and resume their lives and resume their quality of life. Also, in my specialty, I've spent time working in outpatient settings where I've worked with people who've had the same kinds of problems, previous strokes and spinal cord injuries and such, and have helped them with appropriate equipment and so forth so they can manage at home. But also people with chronic pain problems, back and neck problems, shoulder problems, knee problems, because that's part of my specialty. It's all working on physical medicine and rehabilitation. How do we get people back to doing things that they enjoy and get their quality of life back? How do we control the pain? How do we improve their function so that they're not having problems? We also work with athletes. There are many of my colleagues who are specialists in sports medicine as well. And we'll work with teams, we'll work with NFL football players. How do we prevent those recurrent concussions and the traumatic brain injury that comes along with that? How do we rehabilitate them when their throwing shoulder is completely shot? The baseball player has been doing too much and has to have surgery or something else to rehabilitate them, to get them back to the sport again, back to the things that they love. That is what we do. So it's exciting. It's absolutely amazing to be able to work in this field and be able to restore quality of life to people. It's a challenging field. Any profession or any field in medicine is challenging. And any physician will tell you that. And there's much to love about it, and you can see that I'm very enthusiastic about it, and I think most physicians are. Sometimes we get bogged down in paperwork and electronic medical records and things like that, and you'll hear a lot of physicians complain about that. The hours can be long, they can be grueling, they can be taxing, but at the same time, when you love what you do, it's so worth it. And we are focusing more on quality of life now and finding that balance between working too much and not having time with our family. So for me, that's very important to have time with my family. So I've always worked hard at trying to balance my life. And I think in physical medicine rehabilitation, you have more opportunities to do that than otherwise. So currently I'm not doing as much with the inpatient rehabilitation. I'm working more with patients in an outpatient setting. So I do what's called electrodiagnostic medicine, where I do diagnostic testing to find out about neuromuscular dysfunctions such as pinched nerves in the arms or the legs, or problems with the ends of the nerves, or disorders such as ALS or myasthenia gravis or diabetic neuropathy, or a whole host of different things. I find that intellectually challenging and interesting and helpful to the patients and their providers to help give them guidance on what to do next with those conditions. I also see a lot of individuals who have work-related injuries and help to assess, what kinds of things can we do to get them better? How can we get them back to work? And if we can't get them back to work, what's their level of disability and what kinds of things could they potentially do instead? So these are all very challenging aspects of my career, which can be a lot of fun. I'm working part-time now, which gives me more time with my family as well. So it's a good balance for me and a good balance to my life. And I still have time to give people that quality of life that I think is so important and really is so vital to my own career. Things that I would like for you to remember is, one, don't worry about finances. Don't let that be a factor. There are ways to get money to get to school if you need that. There's always opportunities. Remember, open the doors. That's the second thing, the most important thing, I think. Open all the doors that you can. Look for the opportunities because they are out there. They're really out there. And don't close the doors too soon. Even if you're not sure about something, keep it open for a while and at least consider it and explore the possibilities. And thirdly, look for the mentors in your life, because there's always somebody who's been there, done that, and they can give you a lot of valuable advice. It's worthwhile talking to them and taking the time with them.